Greetings, Internet. This is Ibdog. We're taking a look at RF4. You see I'm loading in here to Mosquito because we do need to check out a couple things here. Primarily what I want to do in this video, I think the majority of the time will be spent looking at the Christmas fair. Because I've mentioned this in a previous video, but I really want to have a video where I really kind of document what's in the Christmas fair this year. I tried to find one of those from last year, even the year before, on my channel, and I just couldn't find it. So I want to be able to. But the other thing we have is really an exciting time in RF4. We've got patch notes that went up early this morning. There was an update to RF4, not only with the Christmas fair, which is what we expected, but also they went ahead and released the lodge, or the home, I guess is what we're calling it. So we'll try to take a quick look at all this. First of all, let's just look at the patch notes real quick, and then let's get into game and kind of break down some of what has been added. So in terms of the patch notes, players now have their own homes. You can not only place collections of your favorite rods and reels, trophies, and valuable prizes, but also show them to other players. And I can show you briefly what some of this looks like in game in just a moment. Here's the two pictures that they posted, and those are actually pretty well representative of most of the interesting space in the home. Christmas and New Year discounts apply from December 23rd, so that starts today, all the way until January 3rd, and that is the gold and premium sale. So if you anticipate being premium, this is a good time to go ahead and purchase premium. If you anticipate purchasing gold, obviously same thing, you get a discount. So that's nice. It's always nice when we've got that. Those percentages have come down over the years, but it's still better than not having a sale. So I always look forward to seeing the gold and premium sale, especially for folks who are looking to stock up on a little premium. The big one that we were expecting in terms of this time of year is the Christmas stalls are open on all water bodies. And like I said, most of this video we probably will be spending taking a look at that Christmas stall. A taxidermy shop has been open on Mosquito. I haven't even found this yet. I'm not sure where it is because I'm really curious if the taxidermy options are, how expensive they are. Do they require gold or silver? So we'll find out. The gate to the player's house was open. Here you can display equipment, awards, trophies made by the taxidermist. Player's house can be visited via the public profile. Christmas presents have been placed. Go fishing with a telescopic rod at the festival decorated spot on Mosquito Lake for a chance to catch valuable gifts. Now, I can show you the spot where you fish for this. I haven't done much of this myself, but I've been reading about some of the results, and this is actually amazing. This is where some of the surprises come in terms of they've really gone all out this year on this Christmas fair and Christmas celebration. There's some really nice gifts being fished out with telestick rods at Mosquito, so probably worth your time doing that. I haven't experienced it myself to see how slow the drop rate is on the presents, but I definitely want to find that out. The price for some reels and jerkbait models have been increased. We'll have to ask somebody that knows more about jerkbait fishing and to see which reels have been adjusted. I'm just not sure. Self-made leaders now display the used components. So it sounds like leaders are now broken down into components for the ones that are self-made at least. And the flashlight has been enlarged. So overall, really good patch notes. You hate to see that price increase on some reels. I just don't know which reels have been specifically impacted. So two things real quick on Mosquito, or maybe three things. And then we're going to head to Volkov, because when we're looking at the fair, I want to be able to compare stuff to the in-game shop, and Volkov just got better stock. So if you are looking to do the New Year's gifts telescopic fishing here, this is, I guess, where you can track it. You see there's two gift bags that are premium only. The rest appear to be for everyone. I don't know what all the gifts are. I do know what some of them are. I won't spoil them for you here, but let's just say, from what I've seen, it looks like it's probably worth your time if you're just looking for something to entertain yourself, something a little different. Here's where the New Year's fair is set up. We will come back to that. The fair part, which is the food and drinks, is always interesting. These tea have been cheap ways of getting tea for a long, long time. At this point, if you're a new player, it might be worth getting a few cups of tea. I don't know. But ultimately, we all should be making our own tea, in my opinion. So it's not quite as appealing as maybe it used to be, in my opinion. All right. So what we want to do is I want to find a taxidermist shop. And I'm assuming it's going to be over here on the other side of town. And then I want to give you a quick look at the house. And then we're going to Volkov because, again, I want to spend the majority of our time on what's in the fair stall in terms of equipment. So that's where the house is. I'm thinking that the taxidermist may just be right over here, but let's find out. And if it's not, then we may just wander around Mosquito for a bit. Okay, here it is. Okay, so the only thing they have in here... Wait, what is a Dreamfish voucher? Oh no, I didn't know it was going to be this complicated. Where do you get Dreamfish vouchers at? Alright, so these are the small trophy boards. These are the medium. Aren't they coming out with large as well? Maybe I'm wrong on that. See, I didn't, when these were like fake released out or accidentally released out, it looks that's the only thing we see. So the only question is, what is a Dreamfish voucher? And where do you get it? I apologize. I didn't know I was going to have these like unanswerable questions. I guess we can check and make sure it is not in the tackle store. Let's look in the home real quick. So that was a taxidermist office. Again, it all depends on what the Dreamfish vouchers are, on whether or not, how much it's going to cost. Okay. There's the fireplace. All right, so this is the home. And you can see I've just quickly thrown some rods and reels out last night when the patch first hit, or early this morning. And it's cool. You can still see the name of them. So we've got a carp rod up there, and then our fancy Evora. And then, so you basically can put certain, I guess we hit the exit there. You can put certain rods in each section, like the longer ones, I presume. Certain rods will go up here. And then you see it's an option of some of them, but some of them are grayed out because they're not the right size for this. So let's go back to, I think we had an Avalon up there. And then the ones down here, so there's the Armada. The ones down here are for a little bit smaller rods. So you kind of have to figure out if there's a rod you're wanting to put out, you got to figure out which category it's going to fit in. And then here on the dresser, you can put certain reels out. So let's see, maybe we want to put this T-Tech out instead. But the nice thing is when you put a reel out, and it looks like you can put any, just about any reel in those sections. But the nice thing is that for the rods and reels, and this was obviously one of the first questions I had was, okay, so if we put a rod and a reel out, are we still going to have it in our inventory to use? And yes, you do. So I think that's kind of nice. It's a little weird. Like you would think like, okay, there's my reel. I'm putting it in my house. It's not in my inventory anymore. Well, that's not the case. It stays in your inventory. So you can continue to use it. This is just choosing what you want to have in terms of decorations out in your house. So overall, I think that's pretty cool. Those are the places that you can put rods and reels. The other thing you can do is they've got some sections here to put some awards. No matching items. That's interesting. Okay, so we'll have to figure out what all we've got in terms of, so like if you go to awards, I do have this, but this really isn't like an award that this is obviously something that's almost something that would be on a ribbon, right? So maybe that's why it doesn't qualify for sitting here. It looks like, speaking of qualify, it looks like the qualification level 7, once you finish that, you get the little statue of the bear. Those probably will count. Other things in the house, you've got these, and you know, of course, Jake sent me some silly ones when these were accidentally released. So just to kind of show you, you've got 6 spots to put fish. So at least at this point, and maybe this will be permanent, I was kind of hoping this wall over here would allow you to put, 3 or 4 or 5 more fish out just to have a little bit more. But I do like that the whole house, I talked about this on a stream, it's not like the whole house is just wall to wall hangers to put fish up. In some other games, whether it's fishing or hunting, I feel like the design of the trophy lodges and trophy houses and whatever are a little just unrealistic. This actually looks a little more realistic, So, you can choose up to 3 fish. I'm trying to see if you can you can really hang them in any spot, which is interesting. Doesn't matter the shape. So you can put up to 6 fish out, so that'll be cool, kind of choosing, like, maybe you think, what are my favorite fish to go for? You know what I mean? Like, so for me, maybe carp, bream, Atlantic salmon. So maybe as a little personal goal, I want to get a trophy of each of my favorite types of fish to go for and have them hanging on the wall in my house. I'm probably not going to want to put a bunch of blue tags in here, at least not on really nice fish, because of the silver that you would lose or whatever. But to have some decently sized trophies on the wall, like, I could see that. I think it's pretty cool. I really do. I think that there are some other little things you can do. Sit down, play the guitar, that kind of stuff. You can start the fire. I like what they've done overall. I really do. I mean, I think I don't know that I would have expected something quite as complete feeling. I think there's more they could do. It would be nice to maybe have a couple more spots for fish, but not too many more. But overall, I like how many different things that they've added to that. Okay, so the one thing we don't know is about those dreamfish things, and I may not be able to find that out because I just don't really know where to look. But I want to head to Volkov here shortly so that we can spend some time looking at. I was just wondering if maybe they had it in the tackle shop. It doesn't really make sense to be in the tackle shop, does it? The what do they call it? Dreamfish something. Would it be in the hardware store? Doesn't look like it. So I guess I'm just gonna have to say, unless we stumble upon it, I might have to depend on you all to let me know where do you get the Dreamfish tokens or whatever they're calling them. Let's go to Volkov so we can look at what I really wanted to spend a little time on, which is the Christmas fair. Let's see where the... Oh, you know what? I think the taxidermist shop has only been added to Mosquito, so we won't be able to see the taxidermist shop at Volkov. But that's really strange. I must be missing something. Those Dreamfish tokens or whatever they're called, they've got to be somewhere. They've got to be somewhere. If it's been implemented, I'm just missing them. I'm not thinking of something. I don't know what it is. I think the thing that I was wondering about putting a fish on a frame like that is, would that cost real world currency? Would it cost gold? And I assume it would. I would think that would be sort of a gold thing, but it may not be. It'd be cool if it wasn't. I just don't know. And how expensive is it? Okay, so here we are at Volkov. Grocery store. Just making sure nothing new here. I don't think there will be, because I think the taxidermist is only at Mosquito. So here's the fair. And we do have a little bit of a ways to walk, unfortunately, at Volkov to go between the regular shop and the fair. But let's just take a look at this. Okay, we'll come back to rods and reels. But first of all, you have line. So you've got mono and braid line. The mono is small, 150 meters. It does go up to pretty strong, 21.7, and it's fairly cheap. Now this is 3.5 star line, but that's kind of interesting. I mean, I'm not going to get into all the nitty gritty. I don't know how that compares to 3.5 star line in the store, but it's nice to have that option. And then braid is thicker, and that does go up to 31.7. So again, reasonable size, 3.5 star, 500 meters of line. So that's pretty cool. Not too expensive. braided cord. So you've got line, Christmas line. I do like the yellow color, I guess. And that's more of a white. Now we've got lures. We've got one new lure this year, the snowflake. So it's a new spinner bait, it looks like. And I'm going to get one of each of those. And then, by the way, it's really cool. I never knew that until I was watching Jake stream the other night. I probably want to get one of these too. I'll wait and purchase stuff when I'm not recording this video. But so I have at least like one or two of each of these categories. I probably want to go ahead and complete my set just in case I really get into spin fishing this year. Every once in a while you'll see, especially the Pomar Pinwheel 1, I've noticed. Some of these guys have actually done really well, especially at Tunguska. Then we get into baits. You've got several boilies and 2 dips. So I purchased some of these last year. I might purchase some more. I really never found myself using them that much. I'd say the star of the show in terms of like small stuff are probably these wagglers. And these are for match rods. And some of the best wagglers in the game. I think folks that do a lot of match fishing will speak highly of these. They are a little expensive, but if you plan on using a waggler float this year, you may want to get a couple of these. I guess I just have one of each of the heavy ones. So I may complete my set a little bit there. We've got a bait fish float. And then the couple of regular ones. Little feather. I guess this is a little nicer version of a featherweight, of a feather float. It's very cheap. But you get a free feather float with when you first start the game and when you get your free tackle. So, and then we have a cork float. It's kind of cool, you know, worth having. The only way you can get these is at the Christmas fair. We do have some inline feeders. So if you're doing inline fishing, it's nice to have some inexpensive inline feeders. I've definitely used those before. I think they work fine. So I like seeing the Pomar stuff, but some of this is new. What I didn't get last year at the Christmas fair was any actual gear. And I don't know that I will this year either. You notice that we have a new telestick, and it's fairly pricey. The load capacity goes to 7.1, and then you have different length rods. So I haven't done any comparisons, but it does, I think the idea of this, honestly, is, you know, when it has that vintage label, and it mentions it's art worthy of a special place in your collection. So yeah, you can use it, but I think it's also telling you, hey, this would be a good looking rod to have up in your house. So I'm wondering if part of the price you're paying is for the vintage look of it. So it goes to 7.1 kilo load capacity. I mean, that's really what you're looking for, and it's almost 4,000. 7.1, 4,000. Let's just take a quick look. I'm assuming that's very expensive. In fact, I think that is going to be ridiculous expensive. Oh yeah, that's a bad one to look at. Let's see. All right, we're at 4.9 on those. Model 2, that should be getting up there. Oh yeah. So you're already at 9.4 load capacity and only costs $675. So those vintage ones are crazy expensive, and I don't think they gave you any kind of bonus. I'm gonna make sure, but I don't think they even had a bonus on them. Oh, they do. My bad. So now we need to compare it to something with bonuses. That does always make it more expensive. So 7.5 with bonus to, oh, it's got XP bonus because it's a light. So it's pretty strong for a light. Okay, we need to compare this. Sorry. I knew I'd be going back and forth a lot. I really want to spend time on the reels just to see if any of the reels are worth it. But let's look at this real quick. All right, so it's a light rod. That's medium. All right, these are light. It's not as much of a bonus. So actually, medium, heavy, that's light. Okay, this is very similar, right? Load capacity is stronger, but same bonuses, except was that 50% or 100% experience? If it's light, it should be 50%. I think this is pretty similar though. And this load capacity is 10, so those might actually not be priced that incorrectly. Load capacity is 10. Yeah, those are probably priced competitively because you're getting the bonuses. All right, let's look real quick at all these. So theoretically, I'd like to at least be able to click through all of them so that, you know, if we're looking back at this video sometime later in the year or when the Christmas fair is getting close again, do we want to wait and get something there? Okay, the Hazel fishing rod, 6.5 load capacity, not bad. Only 89 silver. That seems pretty good to me. All right, 25% to experience because this is medium light. And we've got a load capacity of 9.1. That's really strong. I like that. I like that. And the rod looks decent too. That is interesting. We've got the new ones that we showed before. Very expensive, but you're getting those bonuses. 9.1 load capacity. So this is very similar, right? What's the difference? 6 meter, 9.1. 8 meter, 9.1, 6 meter. So is this the same thing? 948 for the Ryzen BK. It's a medium light. And, oh, wrong one. So the difference is this is a heavy. The difference is this is a heavy. It's 995. This one's 948 for medium light, and you get the bonus to XP. And then this is a light as well, but it goes up to 16 kilos. Okay, so now we're getting into some interesting territory, but you're also spending 1,500 silver. But 16 kilo load capacity puts you up into the telestick category that can handle. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a spinning rod. This is a bolo rod. Never mind. It's just the first three that are telescopic rods. Okay. So this was a bolo rod, just to draw attention. That's why the price and stats are a little different, but so similar to this telescopic. So this is a bolo rod. This is a spinning rod. So for a spinning rod, it's a light. So I guess if you're putting together a light setup, it's a lot of silver though. What level would you need to be to justify that? It's kind of a luxury item at that point. And then we have a heavy, nice price for a decent load capacity. This might be worth considering. And again, this might be something we would compare to other things. All right, let's look at this. Load capacity, 26 kilos, and it costs 800 silver. 26 kilos, 800 silver. Reasonable test, I think. And it's 3. I like the length. This would be a good trolling rod. So 26 and 800. Let's look. 26 and 800. So we want to look at spinning rods. 800. 30, 24, 24. 800. I think that might be a decent deal. I mean, Super Duty is definitely a rod that you would sometimes get, right? 28 load capacity is nice. For that price, all right, here's another rod that I would get. I really like the Model 1s. And this is a lot more expensive. I think that spinning rod is a pretty decent deal. The 26 kilo load capacity gives you a lot of options. I think this is a nice deal for a spinning rod. Except it's not a spinning rod, it's a feeder rod. Okay, I'm comparing it to the wrong things. So we actually need to compare this to a Fortuna, don't we? 26 kilo load capacity, 800 silver. I'm sorry, guys. I should have woken up more before doing this. 26, 800. Let's look at feeder rods. Let's see the Fortuna. 19. bigger than that, though. Is it more like a Model 2? Yeah. This has got a better test. It's actually very similar to this. So with feeder rods, that test ending at 100 does limit you some, but not too bad. You wouldn't be able to use the heaviest of sinkers or cages, but so it's basically a Model 2. Wasn't it 26 on the nose? It's a Model 2 that's a little cheaper, 26. Yeah, that feeder rod is not bad. That is not a bad deal. 26 for 800 is really actually pretty good. I kind of like that. You could even fish for carp with this thing at Bear and Old Berg, but again, I would have to look a little more closely at the test I use. If you look in my inventory, if you go to rods, let's go to the Fortuna feeders test is what? 120. It gives you a little bit more to play with, right? The Mecta-Carp only goes up to a test of 90, so that should be fine. Old Berg, and it's not as good as the Fortuna carps, obviously, but those are a lot more expensive. So that's not bad. All right, let's move to the reels. We can't do this all day, right? None of the reels are cheap, so it's not like any of these reels are going to be, you know, level 5 players substituting for level 5 player stuff. All right, let's just see if any of them look interesting initially. All right. Max drag 9 for 800 silver. So that's kind of comparable to the Pulsar or the Saber 60, right? Just a little less strength than the Saber 60, but in the ballpark. And it's cheaper. But let's see what so at 0.26 you can get 154 meters. I think the problem is going to be it's going to have a small spool. But let's see, 126, 154. Let's look at the Saber. 126, 154, sorry, 0.26, 154. The Saber just has a bigger spool. The Saber just has a bigger spool, and it's got 1 more kilo of strength. So if we look at, oops. Oh, it's actually comparable to a Saber 40. Even in price, right? 9 kilo. That's exactly what it's comparable to. 0.26, 131. So it's like getting a Saber 40 or the middle thing of the Pulsar. It's slightly better than that middle thing of the Pulsar, and it's 789. 789. So far, for the most part, it's a little more expensive, but it's slightly bigger spool than the Pulsar 4000. So it looks like it's about a 5,000 reel. Somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000. So for the most part, I would say things look competitively priced. What you would expect. Maybe slightly better on a couple of occasions, like a couple of the rods maybe, but most things seem to be about competitively priced. What quality was that reel though? It's 4-star. That's interesting. What's the Saber? Oh, can I not see here? I'd have to look in the store. That's all right. All right. So let's look at this one. The Pelingus. It's a 2.5-star reel. What is going on with this? Oh, this is vintage. I guess you're just paying for the vintage. This looks awful. Both literally and literally. It's a 2000 reel. So I guess that's one thing, though. It's 2000 with 5.5, and it's a spinning reel. Let's just take a gander. 5.5 spinning reel. And it's a 2000. Those aren't super common, right? To get a 2000 reel that has that much strength. Let's see if we can find one. That's close. That's close. What about this one? Nope. So it's actually a strong 2000, which is really interesting. All right, the Hercules. Nope. And the only reason why this is important is because there's some rods that you can only put 1 or 2,000 size reels on there. So that's why the price of it is a little bit more expensive. What about the cheap Pulsar? Nope. I'm assuming we'll find one eventually. A 2,000 reel that goes to 5.5. Is that actually a rare thing? 3.5 on a 1,000. The Alpha comes in a 2,004. The Bird. Okay, so there's a 5. Now you're already up to 1,500 silver. So again, it's not a very high quality reel. But for what it is, okay, here we go. This one's actually better, right? It's 4-star, 1,900. So it's somewhere in between a Commander and a Bird 2. I don't think there's going to be any. Oh, this is exactly it. 1,500 silver, 2,000, 5.5. So again, it's probably competitively priced. The only thing I don't like is the quality of it. It's cheaper because it's got cheaper quality. And plus you got to look at this all day. But that's interesting. Again, competitively priced. Even though it's got a vintage tag, it's priced about right. For better or for worse. All right, full Trident metal. It just sounds cool. We're back up to 4 stars, so I'm already feeling better about it. Now, this costs 5,400 silver, but it's got a max drag of 18.5. I guess, and it's a 6,000. So that's where you're gonna see the comparisons break down. It's gonna look cheap for how strong it is, possibly. But it's only a 6,000 size. Trident full metal. And you really, when you're getting into big bottom, like spinning reels for bottom fishing, you want the bigger spool. Now this might be a way to get a decent, like stronger spinning reel for spin fishing, for trolling. You don't have to have as big a spool for trolling when you're chasing the fish down on a boat. But let's look at this. All right, 18.5. It's 5,500 silver. I almost need to be just like typing it out real quick. I know that feels like that's going to take a lot of time, but I think in the end it'll actually save time. All right, so full metal, we're talking about 18.5 for 54.98. And the big deal is it's at 0.36 millimeter, it's getting 191 meters of line. All right, so let's go compare this. 18.5, but it's a 6,000 reel. So we're looking at spinning reels. What's the first time that we get into something going towards around the 18? All right, it's the Natura, right? All right, 18.5. But see, this is an 8,000. And so the price, again, it's almost an in-between. It's almost between a Natura 6,000 and an 8,000. But remember, at 0.36, which is right here, it gets 191 meters. So not that much less than a Natura. And it's a heck of a lot cheaper than a Natura 8,000. It's the same max drag. It's the same quality. I think that full metal is reasonable as a substitute for Natura. But let's compare it to something else. We don't want to compare it to an Everest 2. This is just I know that the Caliber HSV doesn't have as much strength. The max drag is only 15.5. But it's got a better spool, and it's a lot cheaper. I'm trying to think like realistically. Remember when Mayer 2s was the thing? Let's don't compare it to that though. All right. Now this is close in terms of. This is actually really close. It's this reel is a little less strong. It's 18 instead of 18.5. It's a little more high quality. It's 4.5 star, and at 0.36. Okay, so the full metal has a bigger spool, and the full metal's cheaper. So like I think the full metal is a slightly better spinning reel than the Z Series 60S. Just in terms of its stats. Now, I don't know about using it, and we're not looking at gear ratios. I mean, so there's other things we're not looking at. This may be a better spinning reel in the sense of like if you're spin fishing. But basic stats, that full metal I think compares very favorably to the Z Series. It also compares very well to the Admiral because it's cheaper than an Admiral 4000 and stronger and bigger spool. Not a reel that I would ever like been tempted to purchase, but I'm just saying. All right, this is another good comparison. It compares favorably to this as well. At 0.36, so the full metal in the Christmas store has a better spool. So it's not, at least looking as its basic stats. Now this is where it's going to start to fall flat. It actually compares interestingly to a Tagara 6000. So at 0.36, the full metal has a bigger spool than the Tagara 6000. But normally we would never encourage someone to get a Tagara 6000. This is where it's hard to do the comparison. You would say Tagara 10,000 is worth saving up for. Because look at the spool size. And if you're carp fishing, that's what you need. Or just in general. So, it does compare favorably to the Chronica 6000 too, doesn't it? 191 at 36. It's a bigger spool. It's a little, not quite as strong, but close. Okay. We're taking too much time on the full metal, but that's interesting. That full metal reel is interesting. It kind of fits in between things. Yeah, that's just really interesting. Okay, so let's look at this. At least we're getting into a size 8,000 reel here. And this is called the Silver 80. And it's got a 24 kilo drag. It cost $13,998. And at 0.42, it's got 286 meters. I think this is going to compare pretty favorably to some stuff as well. It features carp fishing. You have to be level 26, a vintage item. It's 4.5 stars. So it's high quality, 8,000 size. Let's see what this compares to. And actually, while we're here, how close is this? It's a 5-star, 24.5. It's almost identical strength. 0.42, 382. Oh, it's got a much bigger spool, though. The Overlord. All right, let's look at both of these at the same time. It'll save us some time. So the Overlord is 24.5 kilos, and it costs $17,889. That's about the price of a Tagara, right? Or not? 24.6. Sorry, 24.5 max drag. I put 24.6. It's slightly stronger than the one before it. It's a 5-star reel though, and at 0.42 we're getting 382 meters of line. What's next after this? Then we get into other things. Okay, so let's go compare these two. So the thing that strikes me, let's look at the Silver 80 first, which is a 24 kilo reel. Where are we going to be at on making this kind of comparison? 24 kilo reel. That's just a strong reel. I kind of want to compare it to the Admiral. The Silver 80 is slightly stronger than the Admiral, and it has a much bigger spool, and it's a little bit cheaper. A little bit cheaper. It's 1,400 silver cheaper, so significantly cheaper. It actually compares very well. Like, it's preferable statistically, at least on first glance. The Silver 80 looks like a much bigger deal than the Admiral 8000S. Now, when's the last time you heard about somebody using the Admiral 8000S? Like, I can't remember. Obviously, this isn't a reel that you just see a lot of. So I'm not sure. But let's compare it to the Tagara. It's going to be really close to a Tagara 8000. It's slightly cheaper. It has a bigger spool, and it's a little stronger. So Silver 80, better than Tagara 8000, at least statistically. It looks like it. First glance, it looks like it. Now, what are we going to compare the Overlord to? At 0.42, this gets 318, that one gets 382. So the Overlord 24.5 kilo, which cost less than the Tagara 8000, has a bigger spool. On paper, the Overlord 24.5 kilo reel is competitive with the Tagara because it is $3,000 cheaper, slightly higher quality, has a bigger spool, but doesn't have quite as much strength. So it's like in the discussion. How much with the Tagara would you be willing to give up 2 kilos of max drag to gain a larger spool size and save a little bit of silver? It's a little risky. When you're talking about this much silver, the Tagara is such a proven thing that I think it's a little risky. But, by the way, back to the full metal, I should have thought about the Avia. The Avia is more expensive, and at 36, the Avia gets a ton more line. So this is what you're paying for. You're paying for the spool size. Until I've started looking at this, I didn't realize a lot of the silver cost of these reels, of the better reels, is paying for the spool size, it looks like. Because I would rather have an Avia than a full metal, mostly because of the spool size. Everything else is very similar. Very similar. In fact, the full metal is a lot cheaper. Okay, so real quick, let's look at the last two reels. And because I'm not into spin fishing as much. Now, notice that these are both going to be classic bait casting reels. And this is a 2000 size, but it's got 9 kilos. So that might be pretty decent, the Minister 2000. And then this one is a little bit bigger boy reel. Costs 8,000 silver, 18.5, 4.5 stars. I actually really like the way this one looks. It says it's good for power fishing and jerking. 18.5. We'll do a quick comparison. Again, we're not as concerned with spool size, but we know that it's a 5,000 size. 8,000 silver, 18.5. I like the look at that, though. Let's see what classic bait casting looks like. Classic bait casting. It's a 6,000, 18.5. It's a little... It's almost comparable to this one, right? It might actually be compare favorably to this one, and I think this is a decent reel, if I remember correctly. But it's somewhere in here. I mean, I have a Steelness. This is a great classic bait casting. That actually might be a pretty nice... this is made for trolling, it says. That actually might be a pretty nice classic bait casting reel. I wonder if anyone has tried this out yet. This looks pretty nice to me, statistically. Test is, 11 grams. Got a lot of strength in that. 18.5. Like that would, I think that would become, it's stronger. Other than the conventional reel, that would become my strongest bait caster all of a sudden. Stronger than the steelhead. Now I do have a Taiga C. But anyway, again, you'd have to try it, but that just looks like a really good deal. Okay, so there we go. There is the entire New Year's Fair. Thanks for hanging in here with me. I know it's been a long, probably somewhat exhausting look at the New Year's Fair, but again, for my own sake, if nothing else, I wanted to be able to mentally sort of look specifically at some of the things that are available in the fair to see if there's anything I want to consider purchasing while it's available this year, but even more so for future reference as we're going through the year, as next year's we're getting close to Christmas Fair, thinking about what's going to be available. Hopefully it'll be nice to have this documented. Okay, well, let's go fish up some presents at Mosquito. Thank y'all for watching, and I will see you next time. Peace out.